Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, coming at you once again, and this time it is the tutorial for the Quality Wings 787, which just released the other day, and I had no idea, believe it or not. So I've been waiting on this thing forever, and I'm really excited about it. Now, that being said, the video I just released recently was the PMDG 777 full flight tutorial, and I said a couple things during that video which have now proven to be false. The first thing I said was that the videos probably wouldn't be coming very often, but I have a little extra time today, so I'm hoping to try and get this video done and get it out to you within the next few days. So don't count on that happening all the time, but it'd be awesome if I'm able to get this one out pretty quick. The other thing that I said was that I would not purchase anything unless it was compatible with P3D version 4. It's great if it's compatible with FSX, but primarily P3D version 4. Well, Quality Wings has not released the version of this aircraft for P3D version 4 yet, and as far as I can tell, digging through the forums and stuff, I haven't seen anything that gives an estimated release date. So I bit the bullet on this one because I really wanted this airplane. I've wanted it for a long time, and I purchased the FSX version, which is $70 US, not a cheap amount of money. They did say that they would be offering a discount when the P3D version 4 comes out. I don't know what that discount's going to be, but hopefully having spent $70 on this for FSX, it won't be too steep of a price to go ahead and purchase the P3D version 4 version of this aircraft as well, because I definitely want to be able to fly it in P3D. So either way, this is going to be your full flight tutorial for the Quality Wings 787. We're going to fly the Dash 8 version today. And just like all of my full flight tutorials, this tutorial is designed or specifically put together to teach you how to take the aircraft from a cold and dark state, start the thing up, get the power on the aircraft, start the engines, taxi out, take off, descend, land, shut everything down. It's all about how to fly the aircraft. It is not all about every detail of the aircraft. There is no way. This is going to take a while as it is, especially with me because I talk a lot, right? So this is already going to take a while. But the fact of the matter is this thing is extremely complex, and from what I've seen so far, Quality Wings has done a beautiful job on this aircraft. There's no way I could possibly encompass every detail of this airplane into a single tutorial, nor would I ever intend to. So the idea here is to teach you how to take it from a cold and dark state all the way through a flight back to a cold and dark state. That's what a full flight tutorial is all about, and that's what we're going to do. Now, that being said, and that seems to be my new phrase lately, that being said, we're going to jump in. You can see the engines are running right now. Now, there is some, I forget where I saw it at. It was in one of the manuals or something. Quality Wings put out some info. They said if you want to start it up in a cold and dark, or have it start in a cold and dark state. I don't know why I got this little bouncy bounce thing going on the ground here. There, I got rid of it. If you wanted to start in a cold and dark state, you go into the 787.config file, and then there's a couple slashes before where it says cold and dark. You remove those, and then it starts up in a cold and dark state. Well, that's half true. I actually hope somebody from Quality Wings happens to watch this video, because I did do that. And when I first jump into the aircraft, and I tried to pause it, but all the systems got to initialize, and it messes with it if I pause it. Okay, so when I first hop into the aircraft, it first loads in. The aircraft is in fact cold and dark for about 30 seconds, and then once the systems finish initializing, everything starts powering up on the aircraft. So right now, the aircraft, as you can see, has the engines running. We'll hop on the flight deck here. Takes just a second to load in, especially when I'm at Phoenix, because I got all this scenery and stuff. But here we go. So you can see everything is up and running on this aircraft right now. But I put in the information the way, or rather removed the two slashes in front of the line that says cold and dark panel state. So it should be cold and dark right now, but it's not. Now, not a huge deal, because we can put it in a cold and dark state easy enough. It just doesn't seem to save this state. Now, maybe there is a way to save it. Maybe I didn't read into it all that far. You know how I am. But let's hop down here. So we can get to a cold and dark state. Just click on the index, and then where is it at? Not save plan. Yeah, it should be right here, right? Takeoff, save flight plan, load ATC route. Okay, I just lost my mind here, because I should be able to put it in cold and dark from right here. I just did it a little while ago. Now I'm gonna have to look it up again, aren't I? now I feel like a moron. I mean, sometimes I take stupid to a new level. Load PNL, that's load panel. I don't, for some reason, I can't seem to get that through my head. Load panel. So I'm going to load to cold and dark. It's going to load it. Now, I haven't tried turning this thing on with the power off of the aircraft. Hold on, let me get that stupid thing out of the way up there. I had to pause the video for a second to figure that out. Let's try it. Let's see if I just hold this down. It doesn't look like it's going to do anything. Because I'd like to save the panel state, right? I'd like to save the panel state, but I can't because with no power on the aircraft, it's not letting me turn on the CDU here at all, right? So there might be a way to do it, and I just haven't read everything. So I don't know. Let's just try holding down CDU. Nothing. Yeah, I'm not getting anything. Okay, so it is what it is. But anyway, so there you have it. It's not that hard to put it into a cold and dark state, but it doesn't load into that state properly. Another issue that I'm having is with the Navigraph data. Now, there was a message on here. I don't know if you saw it before I shut everything down, but there was a message on here saying that the date that it shows, which is today's date, October 17, is out of the date range for the nav data. Now, my Navigraph Update Manager has a spot on it for all Quality Wings aircraft, or Quality Wings all aircraft, or something like that, right? And so when you navigate to the folder, there's a folder in there that says nav data, and then there's a file in there called current cycle or something like that. I think it's called current cycle, and you open that up and it shows the current cycle. The problem is, inside that initial folder for Quality Wings, there's another folder that says 787, and inside the 787 folder is a nav data folder that has a file in it that says current nav data, right? And of course that shows the nav data that they provided with it. So what I did is I took an aircraft that I'm probably never gonna purchase, which was a Concorde, and I switched, and I basically just routed that one through the Navigraph data manager. I routed the filing for that one to that 787 file. I hope this is making sense. It's probably not, but anyway. So now when you go into that 787 folder, it shows that the current cycle is the current cycle, but this is still telling me that my nav data is out of date. So let me pull that up and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this isn't typical of what we do in these tutorials, but I just want to show this to you real quick. So if you navigate through your Microsoft Flight Simulator, wherever you've got it at, FSX, and then Quality Wings, you can see there's a nav data folder in here. And this is the folder that the Navigraph Data Manager points to when it says all Quality Wings aircraft. And then your cycle info, it shows the current cycle 1710, which is 14 September to 11 October, right? So we're good to go. But if you go back one here, you see there's a 787 folder in here, and in here is a nav data folder. So what I did is I pointed my Navigraph Data Manager to this nav data folder here, or more appropriately to the Quality Wing 787 folder. And when you open it up and you go to the cycle info, it shows the current cycle, 14 September to 11 October. But for some reason, just now, I noticed there was a message that said that my nav data was basically out of date. So we're going to see if that holds true or not. But I just wanted to show that to you guys really quick. Okay, let's dive right in because we got a ton of work to do on this aircraft. And even though it's a Boeing aircraft, and in many ways it's just like any other Boeing aircraft that you've ever flown or dealt with. But everything is computerized in here. Everything is digital. And so and Quality Wings did an amazing job. They incorporated the electronic flight bag over here, and it works with the FMC, and so there's extra stuff we got to consider, and so on and so forth. And so I want to dive right in. Now, one of the things that's going to be great about this, though, is I just released that 777 tutorial, and you're going to find that Boeing has just carried over a lot of their same old tricks when they built this 787. And so you're going to find, once we get going here, that this aircraft's actually quite familiar to you. So let's dive right in, and we're going to start with our flight deck safety inspection. And the first thing we got to do is we're going to turn the battery on. Now, before I do that, you need to note that the battery drains quite fast on this thing. Okay, so we don't want to be messing around with it too long. What we really want to do is we want to get ground power on the aircraft as quickly as possible. And the way you do that is actually with the Quality Wings, I think they call it the Quality Wings panel or something like that. And it tells you that you can pull that up by clicking on this guy here, which is your compass card. But if you click on that, it just closes it. So here's the deal. I don't know why it's set up that way. If you click on the compass card, it just opens and closes. It's actually just a hidden click spot here. If I click on that, there's your Quality Wings control panel. That's what it's called. And then we'll just click on external power to turn it on, but we're not going to do that quite yet. Now, for simplicity, what you can do if you want to have access to this, just right-click it, undock the window, and if you have two screens, you can just move it over to your other screen like I do. Okay, but for now, I'm going to close it back down because there's actually another way to open it I want to show you real quick. If you jump up top here, see how it says aft external power? Okay. If you hold that over there, I've got cockpit tooltips on. That's how I discovered this. It actually pops up the Quality Wings control panel. So there's an alternate way to pop it up right there. So good to go on that. So we're going to need to put ground power on the aircraft as quickly as possible. So what I want to do is I'm going to kind of read through what this flight deck safety inspection list has on it. And then I'm going to just kind of go through and do it. And that way I'm not sitting here talking and the battery's draining, because I want to get to that point where I can put ground power on the aircraft. So we're going to switch on the battery. We're going to check the hydraulic panel, make sure the C1 and C2 pump switches are both off. Okay, so C1 and C2 pump switches, that's these are the electric switches right here. Oh, did I get confused? No, these are them. C1 and C2, those are the only ones on this aircraft. And demand pump selectors are off. These are the demand pump selectors, and both of those will need to be off. So I'm kind of talking about it right now without having the battery on. The only thing we haven't done is actually turn the battery on. Okay. We'll make sure the wiper selector is off, and we kind of go through some of this again in the future. Nav lights are supposed to remain on at all times, so you can actually just click the nav lights on so that they come on as soon as you power on the aircraft, and just leave them on like that. We'll check the landing gear lever, alternate flap arm switch, which we're going to do again later anyway. So here's what I'm going to do. There's a couple other things on here, short list, but I'm going to flip the battery on. Okay. That's bringing power onto the aircraft, and I'm going to pop up this panel, and I'm going to put external power on. You see those immediately become available on forward external power. So let's click, you just click one of them and they both come on. Okay, and now we've got power on the aircraft. We're not draining our battery. We can pay a little more attention to what we're doing here. We already took a look at the hydraulic panel and it's good to go. Wiper selectors need to be off. So 1 and 2, those are both off. And I'll try to remember to put the little pop-up highlights that show you where everything is, just so that you're not confused or wandering around. Nav light switch needs to be on. That's this one down here, and it is. And then the logo switch at night, you would turn that on. We're not doing that, obviously. Alternate flap arm switch needs to be off. So this one actually drove me nuts for a little while. It's not up here on this panel, that's why. Okay, so if we hop down below here, and I got all kinds of buttons on here. And we're going to do this one again later, so I don't really know why we do this right now, but the two switches, the alternate flap arm switch and the alternate flap selector, both need to be off, and that's these two here. And we'll talk about these again later because they're part of later checklists, but it is what it is. And then the parking brake needs to be on, which it is right there. Alright, and then at this point, and I'm going through the tutorial on this in case you're wondering where I'm getting the information. At this point it tells us to put the external power on the aircraft. Well, obviously we've already done that, because otherwise we might be farting around trying to find everything, and then we burn out the juice on our battery. We don't want to do that. So we've got the external power on. We're not going to put the turn the APU on right now, because that's pointless. We don't need the APU at the moment. So we're going to jump right into our initial pre-flight procedures. Alright, and these procedures are going to be accomplished in their entirety prior to every single flight on this aircraft. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is the IRS selectors. They need to be off for 30 seconds and then on. Well, they've been off the whole time, so they've certainly been off for 30 seconds. So you've got your left and your right IRS selectors here. You're just going to right click them one time each to the on position, and then that's it. You don't have to mess with them anymore. Okay, and then we're going to initialize our data in the CDU. So when we jump down here to the CDU, it looks a little different at first, but it's not. It's the same CDU you've always dealt with, but it's digital. So this is not it's not a physical keyboard like this, but instead it's all digital touchscreen, and you can actually change what's displayed on here. I can do my systems on here, I can go to info on here, checklists are on here, and so on and so forth, right? So other than that though, it's really the same CDU you're used to. So you can see we've got messages down here. We've got one, it says panel state loaded. Okay, so it keeps telling me that we loaded the panel state. And it told us that initially as well, that we loaded the cold and dark panel state, but then the systems all came on anyway. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Okay, so we want to go first to the ident page. click on it. Now anytime there's something you can click on, it highlights. Now I don't know if there's a way to get rid of that, because to be perfectly honest with you, that looks a little crazy to me, but it does help figure out, you know, what you're actually pointing at sometimes. So either way, go to the ident page, verify that the model is correct, 787-8. You see it's got us on AirX cycle 1706, but we're supposed to be on 1710. So I'm still not sure why that is. You know, maybe I can copy and paste that file. I don't know, because I've already got the information in there. So I don't know why it's showing an outdated AirX cycle. It shouldn't be, because all of my Quality Wings nav data folders have the updated AirX cycle. So if somebody from Quality Wings happens to be watching this, maybe you could throw something down in the comments and let me know if I made a mistake somewhere, or I haven't dug through the forums to see if anybody else is having that problem. So verify engine rating is correct. I'm going to guess that it is, because I have no clue. So we are using the Rolls-Royce engine. I believe that is a Trent 1000, but to be perfectly honest with you, I have no idea. Verify nav database active range is current. Obviously it's not. That's not the current active range. There's nothing I can do about that right now, so we're just going to have to kind of suck it up on that. And then we go to the position initialization page. Now, there's a little note in here. You don't have to set the inertial position like you do typically in the Boeing aircraft. So I don't need to go to, you know, page 2 or whatever. I don't need to go over here and grab one of these GPS coordinates and then put it down here. It does it on its own. So basically, there's your first cough. The Quality Wing 787 gets the information from the flight sim, and it has constant communication with it, so you don't need to put that information in there. We can put our reference airport in there if we want to, and I say why not. So we're at Phoenix, so let's go ahead and put Phoenix in there, KPHX. You just type it in over here, puts it in the scratch pad, and then highlight that and click it, and there you go. It's got KPHX in there. We could put a gate in there, but anything that's got dashed lines is not a required entry. So we're not going to put the gate in there, because we're technically not at a gate. All right. Let's see. So now we need to verify some stuff. It says on any display, select systems. Okay, so I can select systems here, or I can select it here, or I can come up here. Let me get a view that's a little better for you, and I can select systems here, and I can do it on here. Okay, any one of those. I can do the CDU up here. That's what's really cool about the way this 787 is designed, is all of these are multifunction panels, right? All of these are have the ability to, you got your checklist up here, you got your comm panel up here, you got your CDU, info, nav, and of course nav display will be the one we primarily have up there. Okay, so for our purposes, we're going to do systems. Let's leave this one on CDU, and let's do our systems on this one over here. Okay, so hydraulic quantities do not display RF or OF. I don't know what RF or OF means, but the quantities don't display that, so we're good there. Liquid cooling quantities do not display RF or OF, and that's this little box right down here, and same thing, they don't display that, so we're good. Oxygen pressure is sufficient for flight. Well, I don't know what sufficient oxygen pressure is. I'm sure it's somewhere in the manuals, but I certainly didn't read that deep into them, so I'm going to assume that 1950 pounds, which is what that should be, is sufficient for our flight. Now we need to verify the circuit breaker status. So on any display we would select systems, which we've already done. We select systems here, okay, and then CB, okay, which is circuit breakers. That's this button right here. I may not need to highlight these because they highlight when I put my mouse over them, right? And then we want this button here, which is open or tripped circuit breakers, and there are none. If there were any opened or tripped circuit breakers, they should show up on here. Now I don't know if any ever actually trip, but this is still part of the process, so let's just assume that maybe they do. In the real world, of course, they might, right? Alright, now we push the engine display switch. Okay, and this one threw me off a little bit, because I thought, well, go back to the system menu and push engine display, right? But there's no engine display on here. This isn't what it's actually talking about. So we're going to leave that on systems there. We're going to hop up here, and where's engine display? It's right here. Boom. So the engine display disappeared when I did that. So if it's not on, you need to click on it. Okay, so if you don't have the secondary engine display down here, just click on the engine button. And don't mind me if I'm looking around for things, because I've only gone through this a couple times. So okay, anyway, primary and secondary engine indication display existing conditions. Verify the engine oil quantity of 18 quarts minimum prior to engine start. Oil quantities down here, and we've got 21 quarts, so we're good to go on that. Alright, on the ICAS display we're supposed to check that indications are normal, and basically what we're doing is we're checking these messages right here. Okay, and all of these are normal messages. We don't have engines running, so hydraulic pressure will be down, flight deck door is not locked, fuel pressure in left and right engine should be down, window heat is off, TCAS is off. These are all normal. What it's telling us is what we shouldn't see is things like bottle half discharge engine or brake temperature message or anything like that. So if you hit the cancel recall button over here, okay, that clears everything off. If I hit it again, it pulls all the messages back up. That's recall, and then that's cancel, right? So I just cancel them out, get them out of there. And sometimes when there's more than one list of notifications on there, then you'll have to hit the button a couple times to clear them out. So we'll leave them off for now, and we're good to go. And now we're going to hop up to the overhead panel. This is where it starts to get fun. You're going to find that this is like I just did the tutorial on the 777 yesterday, right? And then I got this aircraft today, and it's nearly identical. It's very simple. So if you watch that tutorial, you're going to find that you go through this pretty quick. Flight control. Now, one quick note there. I almost forgot. Unlike the 777, this one has a very good flow where you go just down the panels. I think it flows a lot better. But anyway, that being said, flight control surfaces panel needs to be set, and that's this one up here. And you can't do anything with either of these. You can't click them. They don't do anything. So those are set. Tail switch needs to be normal. That's this one here. And then the wing switch needs to be normal, which is this one here. And then the heading reference switch needs to be normal, and that's down here. Now this one you can do something with. You can't do anything with these, so they're going to be normal no matter what. But we come down to the heading reference switch. It needs to be normal, and it's a little hard to read. That's one thing that's a little disappointing, because I had to zoom out pretty far to be able to get the whole panel in the view here, and it's kind of hard to make out that that says normal. But it does in fact say normal, so we're good on that. Primary flight computers disconnect switch needs to have the guard closed, and the disconnect light needs to be extinguished. So this is the primary flight computers. This is the guard. Obviously it is closed. If you right click it, it opens. We don't want that, so right click it to close it. And then this light should be extinguished, which obviously it is. Moving to the electrical panel now, the battery. The battery should be on, and verify that the off light is extinguished. That's obvious. Now if the off light was there, you see where they say in op, fault, and off, that light would be on right there as well. So the off light is clearly extinguished. The IFE passenger seats power switch needs to be on. This was the one that was not in the 777 because we were flying a cargo version, and that's this guy right here, and it is on, and the off light needs to be extinguished. Same thing for the cabin utility power switch. That's the one right next to it. It needs to be on and the off light extinguished. For the APU generator switches, they need to be on and the off lights need to be extinguished, and they are. That's these two switches right here. And then generator control switches. That's these four down here. They need to be on, and the off lights need to be illuminated, which they are. The off lights are all illuminated, and then the drive lights need to be illuminated on all of them as well, which they are. Then the APU selector is as required. We're not using the APU yet, so we're going to leave it off, but we want to verify that the fault light is extinguished, and this light right below it is the fault light. It is extinguished. The left wiper selector is in the off position, which it is right there, so we're good there. Excuse me. Oh. And then the towing power panel lights need to be off, and you're like, well, where's that? That's up here. So see, the flow comes right back up to the top, and then we're going to work our way down this one as well. So towing power panel lights need to be off. Flight deck door power switch needs to be on, and it's not right now. It's in the off position, so we can click that one, turn it on, and then the off light will be extinguished. CCR reset switches need to have the guard closed. That's these two right here, and if you right click, the guard pops up. Right click it again to close it. They are closed. Emergency light switch needs to have the guard closed. That's this one here. And then the service interphone switch needs to be off, which is this one. And then there's a note here in red: do not push the passenger oxygen switch. The switch causes deployment of the passenger oxygen masks. That's this one here. And then the next thing we're supposed to check is that the passenger oxygen on light, it says guard closed. It says passenger oxygen on light, and then guard closed, but the guard's closed, but there's no light on there. And then but it very explicitly says not to push it, so I'm not going to push it. The window heat panel needs to be set next. So backup window heat switches are these two up top here, and they need to be on, and then the primary window heat switches, which are these 4 here, all need to be on as well. So if we click all 4 of those, they all come on, and then the inoperative lights need to go off, which they have. Another note here, it says do not push the ram air turbine switch. The switch causes deployment of the ram air turbine. And then of course the next check on here is to make sure that the ram air turbine unlocked light, it should be extinguished, which is this one here. So same thing, it's guarded. You could right click it to lift the guard, but obviously we don't want to click it because we don't want the ram air turbine to deploy. Now onto the hydraulic panel, which is right below that one. And the left and right engine primary pump switches both need to be on. So this is the primary left and the primary right, and they are both in the on position. Verify that the fault lights are illuminated, which they are. Fault lights are illuminated on both. Center 1 and center 2 electric pump selectors need to be off, and verify that the fault lights are illuminated, and that's these two here. Center 1, center 2, both are in the off position and the fault lights are illuminated, so we're good on those. And then left and right electric demand pump selectors need to be off, and verify that the fault lights are illuminated. So demand pumps left is off, demand pump right is off, and the fault lights are illuminated. Seatbelt sign selector needs to be set. We'll put it to auto. And you're going to start getting your Captain Mac coughs here. And now the lighting panel. Overhead panel light control, it says to put in the mid position. Okay, that's this one here. It only has 2 positions, all the way on or all the way off. So I guess we can't put it in the mid position. Master brightness switch needs to be on. It's this one here, so we'll just right click it once. It says push on and off. Oh, there we go. There we go. On and off. So you left click it to push it on and off, and then you can scroll it to turn it up, and then you adjust it as necessary. I'm not sure why it needs to be on, but it says to be on. And then master brightness control as needed. So sure, crank it all the way up. Why not? What's next? Glare shield panel light control needs to be in the mid position. That's this one here, and this one kind of goes in the, oh, excuse me, a little hiccup there. That one goes in the mid position, so we're good. Landing light switches all need to be off. That's these 3, and they are. Oh my goodness. Ground test selector needs to be normal, which is all the way back up top here. Okay, so ground test selector back up top, it's in the normal position, so we're good to go on that. APU fire panel, we need to verify the APU bottle discharge light is extinguished and that the APU fire switch is in. Well, this is actually the APU fire panel here. You can't, it doesn't say anything. Now if I hit the test button though, see, there's APU. And there's the rest of the test. So we're good on that. And then the cargo fire pane, the arm switches need to be off. That's these 2 here. And verify the cargo fire discharge light is extinguished, which it is. That's this one here. Okay. And then that's it. Yeah. So you notice the lights lit up when I did the test. Alright, so they're obviously extinguished now, so we're good on that. EEC mode switches need to be in normal. That's both of these here, and they're both in normal, so we're good. And then of course the start selectors both need to be in normal as well. That's left engine, right engine, both are in the normal position. On to the fuel jettison panel, which is right below that, so it's a very nice flow here. It's a lot easier to find stuff. The fuel jettison nozzle switches need to be off. That's these 2 here. There's no lights. I'm assuming they're off. I'm not going to click them because I don't want to jettison fuel. It says verify the valve lights are extinguished. I don't see any lights on there, so I think we're good. The fuel to remain selector needs to be in. So you pull it to turn it on, and then you would adjust it to the amount of fuel that you want to remain. So it's in right now. We're not going to click it or anything to pull it on. And then the fuel jettison arm switch needs to be off, and verify the fault light is extinguished, and that's this switch right here. It is off, and there is no fault light on there. Down to the fuel panel. Crossfeed switch needs to be off. That's the one in the middle. It is off, so we're good on that. And then the fuel pump switches need to be off as well. And verify the left aft pump pressure light is extinguished if the APU is on. It's not, so it should be off. Let's see. Verify the other left and right pump pressure lights are illuminated, and verify the center pump pressure lights are extinguished. So all of these should be illuminated, and these should be extinguished. Okay. And let's see what else. Fuel balance switch should be off. That's this one right here. It is off, so we're good to go on that. Okay. We're not going to be doing any fuel balancing, so I'm not worried about that right now. Let's see, this is going through how to fuel balance, but I do want to do something with fuel real quick because we need to. I want to talk about how we do fuel in the aircraft, which is actually pretty simple. Now I already set it up, but I'm going to bring this over here. This is your 787 dispatcher here, and you would have all your different liveries here, and you'd select the one that you're going to use. We're doing the 787-8 with the Rolls-Royce engines. And if we want to do the fuel, we go to set fuel tanks. Okay, and now I've already done this, so I'm not going to change it. Okay, but we would put the flight distance in here and our flight altitude in here, and then we would set tanks to calculated amount, which it's already done for us. And then it gives us our total amount of fuel here, 38,512 pounds. Click on Save Fuel. Not sure why, but you click on Save Fuel. I don't think it sends it to the aircraft. I haven't actually looked at how much fuel we have. I'll have to do that here in a second. But this is where you get your fuel from. So when I did the flight plan for this, I did it with PFPX. Let me drag it over here real quick. But I used the I don't have a profile for the 787, so I used the 777 profile, and you can see that it's a different amount of fuel on there because it's a different aircraft. It makes sense, right? So I'm not using the fuel from this, I'm just using the route from this. That's all I used this for, was for the route in this case. So we're good to go there. I say we're good to go a lot, don't we? Don't I? Let's close that out, get that out of the way, and back over here to our aircraft. So let's check our fuel real quick. Let's see, where do we check our fuel quantity at? That's fuel flow. I'll bet you I can find it here pretty quick if we go down here and go fuel. And fuel is at 36.9, 18.5 aside, right? But when we pull this bad boy up and we go to our set fuel tanks, this is telling us we should have 38.5, and that would be 19.25 per side. Right, so that's kind of weird how that is. That's actually, yeah, so it's a little lower in here is what happened. So I'm not sure, how do we change the fuel on this? So if I look at my flight plan over here, our total distance is 800. Let's see what happens. 838 miles. Okay, so let's go 838 miles. And our flight altitude is going to be flight level 390. Okay, and then set tanks to calculated amount. They shouldn't change. Oh, they did change a little bit actually. It's 36,460. And then save fuel. Let's see if this changes over here. No, it didn't change at all. It didn't make any difference. So I'm not sure if there's a way to send the fuel to the aircraft or what. I'm going to close that out now. I don't know if you're supposed to just use the default. You know, I probably could have read that somewhere, but I didn't read it. You know I didn't read that. Anyway, so we're pretty close though at 36.9, so we're going to stick with that, and I think we'll be fine. Don't mind me. So let's go ahead and move on from here. That's not where I want to go. We'll go there for the moment. Actually, we need to go back up top. Let's go up to our lighting panel. The beacon light switch needs to be off. This is our lighting panel down here. Beacon light switch is off. I skipped the anti-ice. I think it was at the very bottom of that last one, wasn't it? Yep. Wing anti-ice and engine anti-ice need to be to auto. That's these three up here, and they're all on auto. And then we go down to the lighting panel. The beacon light needs to be off, which it is. Nav light, it says as needed. Well, we're just going to leave it on all the time, right? Logo light as needed. Wing light switch is needed. And then indicator lights we need to test, and that's this one right here. So if I click it and let go, it goes off. If I click and hold the mouse button down and move my cursor away, I can let go of the mouse button and it stays on, and then I can just look and make sure that all of my lights are coming on like they're supposed to, which they are. And then just click it again and it'll turn off. Where are we at? Runway turn off light switches need to be off. They are. Taxi light switch off. Strobe light switch off. So runway turn off lights off. Taxi light off. Strobe light off. So we're good on those. I'm saying we're good on those a lot. Check, roger, whatever. Basically I'm saying the same thing, right? ELT switch guard needs to be closed. So we're jumping back up top here now. This is the ELT. The guard is closed. Humidification switch needs to be on. That's this one here. It was not, so if you left click it, it turns it on. Forward bulk cargo temperature switches as needed, and verify that the light, it says verify the off light is extinguished. So forward and bulk cargo temperature switches. So this is forward cargo, cargo temperature, bulk cargo, and then it says as needed and verify the light is extinguished. There's no light here. That's on auto, so we're good to go on that. I need to stop saying that. It sounds ridiculous at this point. Air conditioning panel, next one down. Equipment cooling switches need to be on auto. That's these two right here. They are on auto. Verify the override lights. Is that override? It's OVRD. I think that's override. Verify the lights are extinguished. They are. So recirculation fan switches need to be on. That's these two. Those are on. Flight deck temperature control needs to be in the 10 o'clock position. Every time I come in here, it's in the 12 o'clock position. Left click it once, and it's going to be the same for the cabin temperature. They both need to be in the 10 o'clock position for whatever reason. Pack switches need to be auto, and verify the off lights are extinguished. They're not. Off lights are both on, and the packs are not on auto. So left click them once, that puts them on auto, and then the lights extinguish. Trim air switches need to be on, and verify the fault lights are extinguished. That's these two in the middle. They are on, and the fault lights are extinguished. Ventilation switch needs to be normal, and verify the ALTN light is extinguished. What is the ALTN? Alternate? I don't know. But either way, it's on normal, and there's no other light on there, so it's extinguished. Pressurization panel, next one down. Outflow valve switches need to be auto. These are the outflow valves here. They are both in auto. And landing altitude selector needs to be in. You would pull it in order for it to be out. It says pull on, so it's in. And then the right wiper selector needs to be off, which it is. And that takes us down here to the glare shield. And we're moving right along. You can see there's a lot going on with this one. Flight director switch is on. 1 and 2, both are on. Display select panel set. Not sure what this means actually. Display select panel set. I think it's referring to this up here, but I'm honestly not sure. It just says display select panel set, and I never did figure out what that meant. Either way, IFIS control panel. The minimums reference selector needs to be either radio or barrel. That's this knob up over here. It's on radio right now. We'll leave it there. That's fine. Minimum selector as needed, so we could change it, right? Maybe. Where's it at? There it is. I'm trying to find it down here. There it is. So you can pop this up with these little white buttons. That pops these up. You might see that a little better. There's your radio minimums right there, and you gotta click that button to close it back down. So there it is right there. So I'll set it at 200 for now. That would be our radio minimums. Flight path vector switch as needed. So that's this guy right here. If you click on it, you see this little flight path vector. This little white thing pops up in the middle. If you click on it again, it goes away. Okay. Meter switch as needed. We don't need to switch to meters, but you can just make out this little switch hidden behind this knob here. There's a little switch there, and if you click on that switch, it shows meters above feet. So there we go. Barometric reference selector, inches or hectopascals. If you right click the back of the knob, it goes to hectopascals. Left click it and it goes back to inches. We're going to do inches obviously because we're in the US. And then set local altimeter setting. I'm sure it's not right. I don't even know what it is because I haven't looked. It's showing 2976. If you hit the Bravo key, yeah, 2977, so it was right. Nav display mode selector needs to go to map. It's on map right now. You can change it to plan by clicking there or clicking there, or watch this. I can also go over here using this knob. If I roll it, see it's switched over to plan now, and then click on this and that changes it to plan. Roll it back to map, click on it, changes it to map. So you can use that, or you can just click right on the display there. Nav mode select switch push, that was this right here. That's what I was just talking about. Menus, select. Menu is actually over here. Select the menu, and then map selections as needed, and nav data center switch as needed. So I can choose what I want to display on my map. And if you display the airport and then zoom it in using the range knob down to it's got to be 2.5 or less, I believe. What'll happen here is once we start doing our flight plan, when we come back on here and you look on it, you'll actually see the layout of the airport. Alright, so it'll actually show taxiways and stuff. So kind of cool actually. I don't know if it does that in the real world, but it does it on here. And then nav data center switch as needed. So if we want to switch this to the center mode, we can click right here and you get your center mode like that. Most of you are familiar with that. If you're not, that's typically the mode you would use if your first waypoint is behind you or something like that and doesn't show up on this nav display. Click the center mode and then you get a better picture of what you're looking at. I think some airlines probably require their pilots to fly in that mode. I don't know. There is a caution in here not to use the airport map that shows up on here as a primary navigation reference. And just so you know, that range selector, if it's at 0.5, 1, 2, or 5, so we're at 2.5 right now, so if we go to 2, well, 1 will work, then it should show the airport map, but it's not showing it right now, and I think that's because we haven't put our flight plan in yet. Okay, so moving on. Display select panel set. ICAS transfer switch as needed. That's this switch right here. Not really sure why I would need to transfer it. What does that do? Okay, so that moves this guy to the middle and puts the larger one right here. That's actually kind of cool. So if I want to put that in the middle so that I have a larger nav display, I actually like that quite a bit. That would just require us to adjust our view a little bit, but in the meantime we can leave it right there, and then when we're ready to get going we can switch this over to the center display here, and that puts the larger the larger nav display on our display here, which I like. Nav data weather switch needs to be off. So the weather switch, there's one up here. I can turn weather on here, and then I think if I go to menu, I can select weather on here as well. I can put weather or terrain on here. Okay, we need to make sure the switch is off for now, so that's what we're going to do. Traffic and terrain switches as needed, same thing. So you got weather, traffic, and terrain. We can do all of them on here. Okay, there's traffic, there's terrain, and we can turn them all off there as well. If you do just terrain, there's your terrain, and then again you don't see anything here because we're zoomed way in. If we center it, it puts us at 0.5, so we're still zoomed way in. We would have to zoom out to see any terrain. There you go, you can start seeing the terrain coming in there. So that's what your center view does for you, right? Zoom that back down, and let's put that back to that view there. I like it better. Okay. Let's see, mode control panel. Flight director switches are on. We've already done that. Auto throttle arm switches need to be armed. That's these two here. Autopilot disengage bar needs to be up. That's this one here. That's down. That's up. Heading track reference switch as needed. We're going to leave that on heading. You can switch it to track mode if you prefer. Bank limit selector to auto. That's the back part of this knob here. It's on auto right now. If I right click it, well, I got to get to the actual knob. Okay, that's bank limit there. Left click it back over to auto because that's where I want it. Vertical speed or flight path angle as needed, so I can switch vertical speed or flight path angle. I'm going to leave that as it is. And altitude increment selector as needed. That's the back of this knob here. And I like to put it on the 1000, so when I change the altitude it goes in 1,000-foot increments. Otherwise it can take a while to change the altitude. Alright, over to the sidewalls, and that's actually next to this guy here. That's not the sidewall, this is the sidewall. We're going to test the oxygen. Just click on this right here. Once you find the little hand, you should see that little yellow cross. That means there's oxygen flow. And I think my sim just froze. Nope, just... There we go. I don't know why it stayed open like that. Maybe there's a problem with it. Another cough for you there. So anyway, you just push and release it. You're supposed to make sure that the oxygen mask is stowed and the door is closed. I don't know if it's underneath this thing, so it must be stowed in there, so we're good to go on that. Forward panel brightness control, that's moving up here. And let's see, what does it say here? Air data attitude source selector needs to be auto. That's this one right here is on auto. Oh, I'm sorry, the forward panel brightness control, right click to on. Brightness control, which one is it again? That's contrast, panel flood. I don't know if it's the panel flood or what. I don't see a brightness control. Maybe it's this one. Nope, that doesn't do anything either. Okay, well I'm not going to mess with it. We're on to this one. Air data attitude source selector needs to be to auto. That's this guy right here, and it is. PFD, MFD selector needs to be normal. That's this one, and it is. Oh, my nose itches, guys. Check the flight instruments. Verify flight instrument indications are correct and that only the following two flags are shown. That's obviously over here. We need to turn, what do we got? Terrain's on. Okay. So the only flags that should show up are TAKEOFF off, which it doesn't right now because we don't have traffic turned on. I don't know if you hear that screaming. That's my son acting like an animal. But there's TAKEOFF off, and then the other one is no V-speed until takeoff V-speeds are selected, and it says no V-speed right here. So that is as it should be. We'll turn the traffic back off for the moment. Auto throttle mode is blank. I believe that's this one on this side. It's blank. Roll mode, which is in the middle, is toga, or HUD is toga. We're not using the HUD right now. Pitch mode is toga. This one is all the way to the right, and that one says toga. AFDS status is flight director, which it is right there in the middle. And then it says select the map mode. Well, we've already got map mode over here, so we're set on that. Landing gear panel should be normal. Let's move over here so we can see a little bit better. So this is our landing gear panel right here. Landing gear lever should be down, which it is, of course. Alternate gear switch should have the guard closed. This is the alternate gear switch, and the guard is closed. And then the auto brake selector should be set to RTO. So left click it, that puts it on RTO. Integrated standby flight display, that's this guy right here. It says verify the approach mode display is blank. There's no approach mode, and I know if you click on it, that's the approach mode display. You want it blank right now, so that's good. Set local altimeter setting 2977 is already set. Verify the flight instrument indications are correct, which basically straight and level, so it is correct. No flags or messages shown. There are not. Alright, moving back, and I didn't set a quick key for this one, so we have to kind of fly back here. That's alright. Speed brake lever needs to be down. It's not all the way down because I had it out of the way so I could mess with the CDU. Reverse thrust levers need to be down. That's those two up front there, and they are down. Forward thrust levers, that's your normal thrust. Those need to be in the closed position, which is all the way back. They are. Parking brake needs to be set. This guy over here, which it is. And then it says verify the parking brake set message is shown, and that actually shows up on this guy right here. So you can see parking brake set. It should show up on there. I don't know why it doesn't let you close this out from right here. That'd be kind of nice, but anyway, close that out. Stabilizer cutout switches, guards closed. That's these two here. Okay, and the guards are closed as they should be. Fuel control switches need to be cut off. That's these two. They are both cut off. Fuel control switch, fire warning lights, verify extinguished. I don't see any warning lights anywhere, so they must be extinguished. Alternate flaps panel is this one right here. I told you we'd come back to this one. I don't know why we did it initially, but the alternate flaps arm switch needs to be off. That's the switch up here. And then the alternate flap selector needs to be off, which is the knob right here. They're both off and good. Sorry, my nose itched again. Captain's audio control panel as needed. I'm not sure what they mean by that. But we're not going to really mess with anything on it right now, but this is the captain's audio control panel. Now what we do need to do on here is the left tuning and control panel. We need to select and set the VHF. Now it's on VHF right now. We're not changing anything on there, so we're just going to leave it as is. Select the weather radar next, which is this one here. Okay, and then it says set gain and mode as needed. So we can increase, decrease, we can change the mode over here. I'm going to leave it on auto and not mess with it. Transponder, we need to select that one. That's the button all the way to the right. Okay, we're going to change our transponder code. You guessed it, 2336. Click on the line select key and you're good to go there. And then we don't do anything else with the TCAS on here. We're going to leave it as is. We're going to leave it in the normal mode and so on. Flap lever needs to be set. Now, this is one of those weird little things. So I messed with this for a while using FSUI PC and my TQ6 throttle quadrant. And when I move my flap lever, I'm moving it right now, it doesn't do anything. So I had to actually program a button to my flaps. Okay? Now, here's the deal though. We don't need to move that flap lever. What we actually need to do is we need to make sure that the flap position indicator indicates the same thing that the flaps are set at, and that's going to show up on here. Okay, so right now there's no indicator because it doesn't indicate anything when the flaps are up. If I put it down to flaps 1, you can see that the indicator shows up and it shows flaps 1, but the flaps aren't moving because we don't have hydraulics. So we're going to leave it up, and that'll go away here in a second and we'll be good to go. Maybe. Or maybe it's just going to stay there. I don't know. Now it's going to make a liar out of me. Anyway, that's what we want to do. It's gone now. So moving on, flight deck door access selector needs to be auto, and that's back here further. So we do kind of bounce around a little bit down here. Let's see, I need to find it again. Let's go right here. There we go. Flight deck door access is set to auto. That is as it should be. I gotta find my place on my list here again. Engine fire panel set. This is the engine fire panel here. Verify that engine bottle 1 discharge and engine bottle 2 discharge lights are extinguished. I don't know if those lights are on these, because I think these are for the fuel cutoff switches, right? So I think it's the light that's on these, but I don't have a test switch for them, so I imagine there is somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. Let's see. Engine fire switches are in. They should be in. And then verify the left and right fire warning lights are extinguished. So again, I don't know if that's a combination of all 4 of these for those lights or not, but I don't see any lights on, so they're obviously extinguished. Glide slope inhibit switch, below glide slope lights extinguished. That's this one right here, and there's no light on there, so we're good. Transponder mode selector needs to be standby. That's this knob here, and it is in the standby position all the way to the left. RL cancel light needs to be extinguished. That's this one here, and that one's guarded too. So you would right click for the guard and then left click the button, I guess, if you need it. Floor light switch as needed. Let's see, where's floor lights? I don't think I found the floor lights earlier. I'll bet it's staring in my face right now. Oh yeah, it's right there. Floor lights. We're gonna leave them as they are. Evacuation command switch guard closed. That's this one right here. The guard is closed. Aisle stand and panel floodlight control. That's the aisle stand panel floodlight control there, and it just says mid position. So I guess right click it. See, now the bottom one doesn't do mid position. It's all or nothing. So adjust the seat if you need to, and then next we're going to go to the CDU EFB pre-flight, and this is where it starts to get a little interesting. For the most part, that you're going to find that this is pretty standard stuff here. Okay, so we already put in our reference airport. Another cough for you there. Let me get to the right page on my tutorial here to make sure I don't miss anything. A lot of extra pages there. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. Jeez Louise. Okay, ident page first. We already took care of the ident page, so we're going to go as far as that's concerned. Oh boy, lots of costs for you. Okay, position initialization page, we're already on there. Okay, I don't know why I keep getting those little flashes there. So on the position initialization page, we can put in the reference airport if we want. You can click right on the scratch pad. It turns magenta and then lets you type stuff in. I don't like that. I'd rather type it in here and then click the line select key. Not going to put the gate in because I don't know what gate this technically is, since FSX does not really outline gates very well. We don't need to do anything to set the inertial position. It's going to do that on its own. So we're good on this page. So that's going to take us right to the route. Now, there's a few different ways you can do a route here. We can go route request. I don't even know if the route's in there. Stored flight plans 0. So I guess we're not going to do a route request, right? So let's go back to the route page. We could probably try and type in a company route. I think I actually put it as FedEx 2336, but I'm not going to do that either. What we're going to do is we're actually going to put it in the old-fashioned way, just so that you can see that this really is the same as your standard Boeing aircraft. So we'll start with the origin airport, KPHX. Type it into the scratch pad, put it in the origin. There it goes. And then our destination airport is KIAH, which is Houston, for those of you who are not in the know. We're going to fly some relief supplies down there and some personnel. Flight number is going to be 2336, because that's the flight number I choose unless I have to do otherwise. And that takes care of page 1 on the route. But this is not everything, is it? Let's go to the next page. Okay, so where are we going first? Well, actually, I'm wrong. No, we don't go here first. We need to go departure arrival. Click on departure arrival, departing Phoenix, and we are taking the TFD4 departure. It's not on this page, so we'll go to next page. Next page again. Hey, there it is down there. TFD4. We're going to select that one. We are transferring at TFD, which doesn't show up in the transitions here. Okay, so we don't need to select a transition, and we're going to take runway 7 left, I believe it is. You know what? I haven't even looked at the weather. Maybe I should look at the weather first. Let's look at the weather. Go to conditions. Departing out of Phoenix, and the weather is 1:30. I gotta write it down because you know I'll forget. 1:20 at 3. I'm using the magnetic. and 2977. We've already got that in there, but we'll write it down anyway. Okay, so 120 at 3. So what runway do we want to take here? Let's get this back out of the way. I mean, it's really it's a crosswind pretty much either way, but I think we could go with 7 left. Yep, we can go with 7 left, right? Because that's 180. Yep. Sorry, just trying to work it out in my brain, make sure it's proper crosswind and not a tailwind. So we're going to go with runway 7 left. Once we've selected those, we simply click on route, and it puts it in there. So you see, first it's direct to 1,550 feet, and then it's the TFD4 to TFD. And then from TFD, we're going to take a jetway. Okay, and if you click on that, it doesn't do anything. So we're just going to type it in. J50 is our jetway. J50. So via J50 to now you see there's boxes and not dashes there. That means it's a required entry now. So it's J50 to Alibi. A-L-I-B-Y. So A-L-I-B-Y. Click that in there. Bam, we're good to go. There's other waypoints between there. All right. Now we're going to go J2. Remember, this is the old-fashioned way of doing it. This is when you don't have a company route. J2 to ELP, which is going to be a VOR. If I can find the E. ELP. Put that in the boxes. And then it's J138. J138. Put that one over here. Route not found in database. Okay, so I guess oh, you know what? That's because it's J183. J183. So maybe a little dyslexia there. J183 to CLL. We'll find the L here. CLL. Alright. And then it's on to our arrival. So let's activate that. Execute it. And let's go to departure arrivals, and let's go to our KIAH arrival. And we're not going to put a runway in here yet. We're just going to put the arrival in, which is the Rice 8. Next page. Next page. There it is. You got Rice 7, probably because it's outdated, so that's what we're going to go with. And we're coming off of CLL, so we can take that as our transition. We'll execute that, and we're done for now. We're not putting a runway in there. If we go to our legs page, you can see 1,550 feet, and then heading 075, and then vectors to TFD. Okay, and then it takes us to TOTEC, and then item SSO, Alibi, ELP, PEQ, Fusco, LLO. You can see there was a lot of them between there and CLL, and then Basbul, Bats, and then Rice, and then there's no runway from there. Okay, so there we go. Back over to performance initialization page. And in here, now, what's nice about this, we could go one of two ways. We could use that load manager, which I already closed out, okay? But it's already got our zero fuel weight and stuff in there. So the only stuff we have to enter is like reserve fuel and so on, right? Now, it doesn't let me request anything. I'm not sure if that's something that'll be available later, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to put 5,000 pounds of reserve. So put 5.0. Put that in the reserves. Cruise altitude is flight level 390. Now the cost index is a little different. Let's go ahead and execute that. Cost index, instead of being between 0 and 100, this one's between 0 and 2,000. And so they recommend between 200 and 250. So we're going to do it cap max style. We're going to go 500, and that's going to be our cost index. Execute that as well. And then it says FMC pre-flight complete, okay, but it's not entirely complete. So go to your thrust limit. We're going to leave that as is. We're not going to mess with anything on here. It's got V speeds in here already. We don't have our center of gravity in here yet. Okay, we could do that right now, but here's what I want to show you. This is great. So you can see our V speeds are 127, 130, and 140. Try to remember those, and let's hop over here to our EFB. Okay, and we're going to go initialize flight first. You can click here or here, it doesn't matter. Okay, and then once it turns to closed flight, just leave it alone. Go up here to performance. Okay, and you can see it's already got some information in there for us. And what we want to do is we want to copy the FMC data. Bam, that gave us our takeoff weight in here and our center of gravity. Okay, and what this is going to do is this is going to give us better, whatchamacallits. Come on, brain function. Better V speeds. So let's do our runway condition is going to be dry. Okay. And our thrust rating, I think I'm going to leave the thrust rating as is. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on here, because I got it on my little list here, and there's I want to make sure that when we come back over we got everything set up properly. And of course there's like 5,000 pages to these things. A lot of information. Okay, almost there, almost there. Okay, we copied the FMC data already. Okay, and then we put in, let's see, we've selected dry thrust rating. We're going to select for takeoff. Okay, so takeoff. And then we're going to click on the calculate button. Bam. And then you see it gave us V-speeds. Now the V-speeds ended up being the same, so it didn't really make any difference for us. But supposedly you get better ones by doing it this way. I don't know. Anyway, once that's done, now that we have our V-speeds, we want to send this data over to the FMC. So if you click on send output down here, maybe, there we go, send to FMC, complete. Okay, now when we hop back over here, you can see that it automatically changed back to our takeoff reference page, and it's asking us if we want to accept or reject it. We're going to accept it, and then we still have to do our center of gravity. So click on it once, it puts 17, or you could just type 17 in there, right? Because it gave it to us over there. And there it is, and it gives us our trim as well. But remember, now it gave us our center of gravity on here. Okay? Where's it at? I know it's on here somewhere. There it is. Center of gravity, 17. I got a sneeze coming up. There we go. You're getting the full Monty today. Captain Mac coughs and sneezes, the whole shebang. Alright, so now we're done with that. That's it. We're done setting up the FMC. The pre-flight is complete. We're ready to rock and roll on that. So let me organize my paperwork here. Alright, next thing we want to do is we want to make sure all the doors are closed, and you can use the Quality Wings control panel to do that. And there's a way to pop that up. Is it this one? No, that just expands the lower... That just expands this guy. We can just jump up here and click on this button real quick. That pops it up. Make sure all the doors are closed. We never actually open them. We do have the external power on there though, so I'm going to move that over here so that I don't forget to turn off external power, right? Back down here, and we can check the doors. Now we can check them on here, or we can check them down below. I think it's probably a little easier to do it down here. Click on doors, and you can see that they're all closed, and we're good to go. So that's what we want. Let's see, what else we got here? That's pretty much it. Now it does say that it says when all doors are closed and the flight plan is loaded, pre-flight complete message displayed, which it is, the Quality Wings first officer will then call for the before start checklist, but he didn't. So I don't know why. But let's take a look at our checklist on here real quick, because this does have a checklist function built in. So here's your pre-flight checklist. You just select checklist. You can put it here, you can put it here, you can put it up there, it doesn't matter. Okay. The pre-flight checklist is done, so we can check that one off. Flight instruments, heading, and altimeter. We haven't set the heading yet. We could do that, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So we'll select that when we're done, and then go to normal, and that takes us to our before start checklist, which we got to do our before push procedure first, right? So let's look at our before push procedure. Maybe jump back up here real quick. So seatbelts need to be on, and the seatbelt sign needs to be on. We know that the seatbelt sign is on because we turned it on auto earlier. See, there you go. Hydraulic pumps need to be on auto. Okay, so hydraulic pumps, these are your electric pumps. Those go to auto. Demand pumps go to auto. And that's the next one on the list. Right demand pump selector on auto, verify that the fault light is extinguished, and then left demand pump on auto, verify the fault light is extinguished. So I guess you're supposed to go right then left. I didn't do that. My bad. C1, C2 electric pump selectors auto. We did both of those already. Verify the fault lights are extinguished. They are. Fuel. What's the release fuel? What's the onboard fuel? We're not messing with it. Check fuel on board as displayed on the forward ICAS display. Sense the value against the Quality Wings dispatcher release fuel. So what that's saying is, oh, wrong button. I'm trying to get used to my new buttons here. So it's telling us to check the fuel on board as displayed on the forward ICAS display. Fuel quantity, it shows it at 17.7. No, that's the weight. 315. Total fuel 35.4. And then you're supposed to, I gotta pop that thing up now. You're supposed to check it against that thing. Now we gotta hey, you guys get to see all the junk I have on here, right? Quality Wings 787 dispatcher. Okay, and so this says total weight is, see, that's not even close to the same, is it? Not even close. Let's look at the fuel. Set fuel tanks. 36,460 is what we had it at. I don't know. I'm a little confused by that, to be honest with you guys. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. So let me take a look, see if I can figure it out real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I took a look at it. Kind of dug in the manual a little bit, but not a whole lot. And what I did is I went down and I made the adjustment here to 36.4 manual, and you can see it shows manual now. So as far as that goes, I think we're good on the fuel for the moment. So fuel pumps, let's jump up top here. Fuel pumps need to be on. 4 of them. We don't have anything in the center tank, so if we turn those on, it's just going to show a pressure warning, and that's pointless. So left and right fuel pump switches on. The pressure lights are illuminated because of the load shedding. If the APU is running, the left aft pump pressure light will be extinguished. We don't have that running yet, but let's go ahead and start that right now while we're waiting. That fault light should go off shortly. You see the pressure light went off on that left aft fuel pump, so we're good there. We don't need the center fuel pump switches. Stabilator and rudder trim set. We're not doing anything with those. We're going to leave those as they are. Doors. When all doors are closed, select the doors synoptic on the first officer's multifunction display. So go over here, go to systems, go to doors. Let's see. Use of the synoptic will assist the captain in determining when aircraft movement is imminent. Okay. Not sure what they're getting at there, but anyway, beacon needs to go on, so let's turn the beacon on. Transponder needs to go to transponder, and that guy's back here. I don't know why they put it to transponder. I guess TARA is before takeoff, so, and then we can go right into our before start checklist, but we need to push back first, right? So let's see here. Come on, brain function. We do not have GSX, not working, so park and brake off, shift P, and then we'll hit the number 2 here, and that should turn the nose to the left for us. And I wanted to come down here anyway, believe it or not. So I want our takeoff page. That's what I want here. And we can go ahead and start the engines at this point. Actually, no, it says before start checklist, right? Which we're on here. So passenger signs are good, MCP is good, takeoff speeds are good, CDU pre-flight is complete, taxi and takeoff briefing technically will take place as we taxi out because that's how we roll, which means we can start the engines now. Let's see if it says anything specific on here. It's just the auto start procedure. It's pretty straightforward, guys. You guys have seen this 100 times before. If we hop up top here, well, probably not 100 times. The same as the 777 though. So we're going to left click to put that in the start mode. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to turn the fuel on. And that's it. That's the start procedure. I think we've pushed back far enough, so we'll go ahead and hold up there. Put the parking brake on. And let the engine start. So while that's starting up, there's a note in here. You can actually start both engines at the same time. You just need a 5-second delay. So while that one's finishing up, let's go ahead and let's start the right engine. So click that one to start and put the fuel in. And as long as there's a 5-second delay between the first engine and the second engine, you can do a dual engine start, which is actually pretty cool. So good times. So we're just waiting on engine 2 to start up now. You can see now that the airport taxi diagram, if you will, or just the airport map has shown up on our nav display here, which is nice. Oh, you can't shrink it there. That's kind of annoying, actually. Let's switch these. There we go. That's the one I want there. I like that better. This also tells us when the engines are running. Come on. Well, maybe it does. I mean, it does, but you might not see it because I didn't catch it in time. We are going to need to adjust our trim. Actually, we didn't do that yet. What was our trim supposed to be set to? Let's hop back down here real quick. And trim is supposed to be 4.25. Now this is handy right here, actually. So I should be able to just go. Is this the right one? No, it's not. Never mind. What am I thinking? No, you can't do the engines down there, I guess. It'd be nice if you could do the engines down here, right? If you could go systems and then engines, so that this display could show up down here as well. But I guess you can't. So anyway, 4.25, and you can see it's actually in magenta as well. There we go, 4.25. I just held it down for a second, and there it is. Easy days. Why does it want me to select that? Oh, I guess because I have nothing selected, huh? Okay, well, we want nav display. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, what do we got next? Let's see, APU can, so we're now in our before taxi flow, right? So the APU can go off. So we'll just go up here real quick. Sorry, I clicked off screen there. So APU can go off, just left click that, and that'll turn it off. Engine anti-ice as required. We don't need any engine or anti-ice, so we're going to go on that. We can turn the wing lights on. I'm just looking at them so I see them. We need to hit the recall, which is right here. Just shows that TCAS is off. Let's flip that all the way on. I'd prefer to have it on TARA. So now if we hit recall again, nothing should come up. It does not. Flight controls, we need to check those. So this is where this will come in handy. If we go to systems and then flight controls, there you go. You can see all your flight controls on there. So we can go full left. There we go. Full right. Good. Neutral. And then all the way up, all the way down, and neutral, and then a full left, and full right, and neutral. And it looks like the trim is at 4.37 now. It is. I don't know why. Oh, there we go, 4.25. I don't know if it's just being weird or what. Anyway, you can close it out with a little X up here. I found out, by the way. So let's go back to nav display there to put the primary nav display up there. Flight controls are checked now. Radio panel, we're good on that. We're not going to mess with it. Flight deck door is closed and locked. Should be, but let's double check it. It is. Fantastic. Next page. APU is off. Engine anti-ice is required. We already kind of did these, but it has you going over them because that was the flow, so now it's the checklist, right? So actually, I'll bet there's a checklist on here, right? So that was before start. And then before taxi. Anti-ice is good. Recall has been checked. Auto brakes at RTO. Flight control check is complete. And ground equipment is clear. So the next checklist will be the before takeoff checklist, which will be just setting our flaps. So easy enough, right? And we don't have a very long taxi on this. In fact, we have an extremely short taxi. So I'm going to bump my gums just for a second here while I get my track IR set up. Of course, that required me being quiet for a second because I had to take my headset off. Okay, track IR coming on, little jump. There it is. All right, and then I'm going to stop talking. Oh, no, I'm not going to stop talking yet. Oh, all kinds of movement there, huh? Let me turn that back off. Little jump here. So I didn't show this yet, and I'm surprised I forgot about it. There are charts on here. Go to menu, go to terminal charts. We've already got that in there. So hit complete, I believe. Yep, there we go. And what did we say we're taking? TFD 4. So that's not on this page. These are our departures. Where's TFD 4? It's not showing up on this page at all. Why? Well, that's kind of frustrating there. Am I just not seeing it? Because there's only one page on here. It's not showing TFD 4. So that kind of stinks, actually. Because it's only showing... Huh. Yeah, it's only showing come on, my brain doesn't want to function now. I'm completely losing my mind here. There's only one page here of charts, and TFD4 does not show up on any of these. So unfortunately, we can't look at it. But basically, what I'm getting at is it shows your charts on here, right? And then you can also set it up. If you hop over here real quick, you can set it up. Let's go info, quality wings config, miscellaneous, EFB night chart because I like it dark, maybe. There we go. And then flight plan overlay, and then we'll put that back on checklist. And so now if I hop back over here, you can see it's changed to night, and then there's the flight plan. So obviously this is not the departure we're taking. I just picked one. So there's one. I mean, it's again still not our departure. This is our departure here based on our flight plan, right? So you can pull up your charts on here as well. And if you go back here to KIAH, you've got 4 pages here because you've got the arrivals, and then if you go page down, these are all arrivals, and then you've got your runway approaches too. So if you click on one of those, it shows you the approach to the runway And once you program that into the FMC, it'll overlay that runway approach on this chart, which is pretty cool actually. So I like that. They've definitely got these integrated. I'm actually just looking for one that's close to ours just to show you. Okay, so we should see our aircraft flying on this route when we hop back over here. Okay, so obviously we need to brief the departure. So the taxi is nothing. I mean, literally the taxi is we're going right over there. Okay, so I'm not going to even do a taxi brief on this little jump here, but I am going to do a departure briefing. So I'm going to stop talking on this portion of the video so that I can start talking on the departure briefing. Does that make sense? Nobody knows what I'm talking about, but that's okay. What's going to happen here is we're going to do departure briefing. Here we go. Alright folks, take a quick look at our departure procedure here. The TFD4, which is the TFD is actually for the Stanfield VOR, which can be a little confusing. I just happen to already know that because I'm familiar with this area, but TFD is for Stanfield VOR. So when you're looking for this particular departure, you might have a hard time finding it first because you're looking for TFD4, but really it's Stanfield for departure. So there you can see it listed right there. Anyway, taking a quick look here, we're going to be on runway 7 left, which is the longer of the two runways here, and you notice that it says for initial climb, see inset, and this is our inset right down here, initial climb inset, and this gives us the information we're looking for our initial climb out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to depart on 078 degrees, which is the heading of the runway, until we reach 1,550 feet, and then we're going to turn left to 075 degrees. And then you think to yourself, okay, well, what do I do next? Well, cruise on up here. This actually gives us all the information during the initial climb all the way up to top altitude, which is 8,000 feet. So it tells us we're going to climb on heading 078 degrees to 1,550 feet, then a climbing left turn to heading 075 degrees, which really isn't much of a turn. And then at 4 DME east of the Phoenix VOR, that's what PXR is, the Phoenix VOR, this guy right here. At 4 DME east of PXR, we make a climbing right turn to heading 100, and you can see that depicted right here, and its vectors there. It even tells you expect radar vectors to TFD, radial 3402 TFD. Okay, and then our top altitude 8,000 feet. Now we're going to bypass 8,000 feet. I'm not going to really worry about that. I've got my traffic turned down to minimal, and of course we're not using ATC. But you can see down here in the routing, it tells us to maintain 8,000 feet and expect radar vectors to TFD or the radial 3402 TFD. Then via transition, expect further clearance to filed altitude 3 minutes after departure. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to start climbing out, and then probably not long after we make our turn to 075 degrees, we're just going to head direct to TFD and then on course from there. And we're not going down to Tucson, we're actually going TFD. Jeez, I just flew it a few minutes ago. The bird's in the air right now, and I'm trying to remember where we went. I think we went out to Olin, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But our primary concern is getting to TFD, and then from there we're going to basically go on course. Pretty straightforward. Phoenix departure is going to be on 126.8. You can see that up over here, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else we need to worry about on this one. So there's your departure briefing. Probably not the best one, but there it is anyway. Alright, so remember, we are taking runway 7 left for departure. That's what we're holding short of. We actually still have to continue this right turn just to get on there. But just take a look at a couple things real quick. If you look down here, we look at our nav display, you can see there's the airport layout there. There's us, and then runway 7 left. And we can actually zoom that in just a little bit more. There you go. So when you're taxiing around, you can actually see, I think that's, there we go. That's all the way in right there, 0.5. So you can actually see your taxiways and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So, and then once you get past a certain point, that goes away. So we obviously don't need that. There's 2.5. There's 5 that shows the runway, and then beyond that, you know, it's your typical. So remember, we're going to fly out here until we hit this point here, and then we're going to go to heading 075. And then from there, it's going to take us over here to TFD. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to fly that manually. But let's put 075 on. Come on. It's a little hard sometimes with track IR because your head moves around too much. 075. Boy, that's a lot of scrolling. There we go. 075. So, which is almost the heading we're going to be on anyway. So I don't really know what difference it makes. I haven't actually looked at the departure, so I don't know if there's an altitude restriction or not. We should see our aircraft flying out on here though. And so on and so forth. So pretty much going to go. Our checklist for takeoff is just flaps. You know what? Turn track IR off. That's ridiculous. Okay. So it's just flaps, and it's already green because when I set the flaps, we're good to go. However, it doesn't include, that doesn't show landing lights got to come on, right? We got to have landing lights on, runway turn-off lights need to come on, strobe lights need to come on. Those all need to be on as well. We don't need to do anything with packs or anything like that. We do need to arm the LNAV and the VNAV, so those are both armed now. And we need to take this thing all the way up to 390C. So there was a couple areas in there. I don't know if it's maybe I missed it or something, but I think maybe our tutorial's lacking just a little bit of information in here. But it is what it is. So let me just take one last look here and see if I miss anything else. Flaps are good. Reference speeds are set. Stabilator rudder trim, those are all good. We've already done our taxi. General flow before takeoff. Transponder's already on TARA. We can put the weather as desired. I don't know if we're going to run into any weather. I haven't really looked, but let's just go ahead and click it on there. And then if you come down here to weather, and it's already on weather and turbulence. So we're going to go on that. No need to change it. Lights when cleared for takeoff are on. We've already taken care of that. Departure briefing is done. I think we're pretty much good to go. Most of the procedural stuff is, you know, at this point, procedural stuff is pretty much the same as any other aircraft. And knowing me, I'll probably miss a bunch of things. Track IR coming on a little jump. I'll probably miss a bunch of things because I always do. Oh, there we go. But, you know, such is life, right? Let's go ahead and bring the throttles up here a little bit. Starting to move. There we go. She moves pretty easy when she's light like this. We're not flying very far, so that would make sense, right? All right. Let's get over here and get lined up. I mean, if we wanted, we could use the maybe. There we go. I've never used the HUD before. I think I might use it for landing, but I'm not going to use it for the takeoff. And this thing moves really easy when it's light like this. We've got plenty of runway to work with. It's not a very hot day. Little chop at these add-on airports. It is FSX, of course, so you get what you get, right? But just as a side note, if you happen to watch that tutorial for the 777 and the horrible slideshow going in, yeah, so it was just as bad in this aircraft, so I really think that it mostly has to do with that scenery, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. So, and I wasn't able to get the toga button to work in here earlier, so we'll see what happens. I have noticed that the engines are a little slow to respond at first, but once they do, they respond with a lot of power. Alright, so throttled up. Starting to stabilize above 50. Let's hit toga. Yeah, it doesn't go into takeoff mode, so I have to throttle up manually. So I don't know if that's a setting I missed or something, but whatever. Here we go. And this thing is quiet.
Check. B1. Rotate.
And we're light, so up, up, and away. Positive rate, obviously. Gear up. Ooh, look at that sucker climb, huh? Jeez Louise. Look at that. That's a climb right there. Alright. I think we can bring that trim down just a little bit. We can bring one flap setting out. Ooh boy. And this is a very efficient aircraft. Something to be said for that, obviously. So 075, there we are. Alright, looking pretty good. Boy, she's climbing like a champ, isn't she? Let's go ahead and get those flaps all the way up. Once we get out to our 075 point here, then we'll start making a right-hand turn, I believe it is, towards TFD. Man, this airplane climbs like a champ, doesn't it?
I'd also like to offer a special welcome to our quality flight. You will be earning valuable miles.
Alright, autopilot coming on here.
Autopilot on.
Oops, I turned it back off. Okay, autopilot is on at this point. Track IR coming off. Got a little work to do here real quick. Let's hop down here and let's make sure she's tracking over to our next point. So we're on vectors, so we want TFD That's where we want to go direct, execute that, and there we go. She should go direct TFD now. I think it was already doing that anyway, but just in case, I went ahead and took care of that. So staying at 250 because we're below 10,000 feet. This is one efficient airplane right here. Look at that. It's climbing at 5,300 feet per minute. That's just crazy. We're going to clear 10,000 feet here in no time. And I don't have an actual set of checklists in front of me, so that's sort of making this a little bit more difficult. Let's see. So let's get these landing lights off real quick. Off, off. Come on, off. I think the click spots could be just a little bit bigger, would be helpful. Strobes stay on. After takeoff flow, gear is up. We want to make sure that's taken care of. Flaps have already come up, and we don't need to do anything with the anti-ice. So as far as the checklist goes, let's see here. It's still got us on our before takeoff checklist. Let's pop that up since the throttles are in the way there. Go back to the normal checklist here. Flaps were good.
Ladies and gentlemen, the use of approved portable
that's kind of weird. Normal menu. After takeoff. Okay, landing gear up, flaps up. I don't know why it keeps going. Oh, you know what? We probably have to override that checklist. Checklist overridden. There we go. Okay, and then the next one will be our descent checklist. So we're going to go there. So for whatever reason, it just... where's the little thing to close this? It's not there. Sorry, close it like that. For whatever reason, it kept going back to the before takeoff checklist. But gear is up, flaps are up, engine anti-ice is as desired. Well, we left it on auto. We don't need to do anything with it. And we've done the after takeoff checklist as far as the system is concerned down here. And that's it. That's all. No more, folks. We've got this airplane off the ground. It is very complicated, but as you see, ultimately it is still a Boeing aircraft, which brings a lot of familiarity to it, and I'm really loving it. So let's get this flight underway. There's nothing left for us to do until we get to top of descent, except for, you thought I forgot, but no. It is time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alright, taking a look at our arrival here, I was actually considering rotating this chart. Thought maybe it would make it a little easier to see, but it does not. And as you can see, this chart is not the same nighttime view that we normally have. It looks like, I don't know, it looks like they just kind of blacked out the chart. It's just different. A little hard to see. Actually, pretty hard to see in general. I'm having a hard time reading it, sitting here looking at it. I know it's going to look a little smaller for you guys on the screen, so I'm going to do the best I can to guide you through this here. We're taking, it's just the area star. It's the Rice 8 for us. I don't know why it says area star here, but it's Rice 8. I think it was listed as Rice 7 in our Navigraph, or not in our Navigraph, but in our database, because for some reason the update's not working right. And just as a quick side note, I went on a forum, I did find a forum that said, yeah, just manually point it to here. Well, I tried that, obviously, as you've seen, and that didn't work. So I don't know why it's not updating the nav data. I don't know, I'll have to figure that out. Maybe just because I gave the aircraft a different name or something. I don't know. I'm going to have to play with my Navigraph data manager. But anyway, enough about that. We're coming in at CLL, or College Station VOR, which is right down here. Let me zoom that in a little bit for you. So College Station VOR, this is where we're coming in at. And we're going to bang a left at 076 degrees and scoot down here to, I think that's supposed to be baseball, but baseball, baseball, whatever. Get down to there, we'll hang a right and come over here to Bats, and then to Rice, which is what the star is named after, and then down to Miller, I guess that's supposed to be, and then Light. Then that's all of our waypoints for the actual arrival, and then it's going to be on to the approach from there. So you can see there's a lot of different things going on here, but ultimately all of these are part of the Rice 8 arrival. So you can come in from a lot of different areas. Why ours is from CLL, I'm not sure. I think that's just the way the flight plan laid out. But we're coming in at College Station, 113.3 on the frequency on that one. Let's zoom that back out so we can see the whole picture here. So as you can see, there's a lot going on this one, but pretty straightforward once you get down and kind of dig into it a little bit. So that's going to be our arrival. And then I think down here on the routing, you probably can't read that, but it says from over Rice on IAH, on the Houston VOR, or Humble VOR, which is IAH, radial 313 to Brakeman, then as depicted to Light, which is down here, which we've already looked at that, and then expect vectors the final approach course. And we've actually just programmed it so that it goes direct to the final approach course. So I think we're going to be good to go on that, and nothing else really to cover on this, so we're good to go. Alright, as you can see from our nav display here, we're going to be coming up on our top of descent, and not too long from now. Don't worry, my brain doesn't want to function. Now, I want to make a note real quick. I've already recorded the approach briefing, so I didn't include this in there, but I want to go ahead and show you something that I did really quick for the approach. So the approach actually starts here at Dudme, but when we came from Light to Dudme, it's like almost a 180-degree turn. It's like insane. Really? Updates right now? I'm busy. Thank you. I hate this computer sometimes. No, actually, I just hate that Windows tries to force stuff down your throat, or Microsoft rather. But anyway, so from Light to Dudme, trying to make the turn at Dudme was like almost a 180-degree turn, and that's our first waypoint on the approach, and I don't want to do that. So I added Dud 01 here. Okay, and so this is, I just want to show you as quickly as I can here. This is actually as simple as it gets. It's the same as it's always been with Boeing. So the only difference is it's the 787, so it's, you know, more digital, more electronic. But if you go to your plan mode here, and then let me zoom it in real quick. Let me zoom it way down here. There we go. That'll work. Okay, and then you step through just like you normally would, right? So step to Miller, and then Light. So from Light it went straight here to Dudme, and you can see that's a really sharp turn. So I added Dud 01, and I did that the same way you do with any Boeing aircraft. So I put Dudme in the scratch pad, slash, and then I'm sorry, Dudme, and then the not slash yet, Dudme, and then the come on, brain, work, for crying out loud. The direction, okay, the heading, that's the word I'm looking for. The heading from Dudme that I wanted this waypoint, which was 229 degrees, slash, and then the distance, which I put 8 nautical miles, just to give us a lot of room to maneuver there. Okay, and then once you put that in there, you put it in front of Dudme, it puts it in there as a temporary waypoint, then you execute it and it creates it as its own waypoint. So if you've never seen that done, let me know and I'll show you some other time, but I know I've shown it in other videos. It's very simple to do, not a hard process at all. So I wanted to show that to you real quick so that you knew that that was in there, even though I've already recorded the approach briefing. Okay, so that being said, we're even closer to our top of descent now. Let's go ahead and take care of our descent flows, procedures, and checklists. So we want to get the descent procedure completed before we reach 10,000 feet. Well, that's not going to be a problem because we're going to try and complete it before we start our descent. But because I talk a lot in the way things go, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and reduce our altitude right now. And at Dudme, we want to be at 2,000 feet. And I don't have any other major altitude restrictions, even though I'm looking right now at our arrival just to make sure I didn't miss one when I did the arrival briefing, and I don't see any major altitude restrictions on there. So we're just going to roll this down to 2,000 feet and keep an eye on it. Again, that's not how you do it in the real world, guys. For those of you who are wondering, or for those of you who are going, that's not how we do it in the real world. Listen, I'm doing the work of 2 pilots first of all, which is not overly difficult, but I'm also trying to record as I go, so I got other things going on. So some things I simplify. In the real world, you wouldn't do that. You'd take it to whatever your first altitude step down is going to be to. But we're going to put it at 2,000 feet, and it should start descending automatically once we reach this top of descent point. That way, if I'm still talking, we're good to go on that. So, that being said, first thing we want to do is hit recall. Where's recall? Here we go. Recall. And nothing's popping up. Probably need to turn this to, what is it, system? No, not engines. That's that down there. Checklist, nav display. Yeah, there's, I mean, yeah, it should be on, no, it shouldn't have been on systems either. The messages should pop up here, shouldn't they? I don't know. I'm lost right now. Put that back on nav display. I'm going to leave that on nav display. This one's supposed to be on CDU. We'll leave that on CDU. We'll hit recall one more time, but it should actually pop up right here. So don't mind me. My brain's not functioning properly right now. But we've done recall. Nothing there. So next is our reference speeds. We need to set those. We do that down here on the CDU/FMC/touchpad, whatever you want to call this thing at this point. And to do that, we're on our legs page right now. Hit the initial reference key. Okay, and it takes us right to our approach reference page. Now it doesn't always do that, and if it doesn't for some reason, maybe you're too far out, something like that, click on index, click on approach, and it takes you to your approach reference page, and it's giving you these speeds based on your current gross weight, so these are going to actually be a little bit slower. We're going to do a 30-degree flaps just for the fun of it. You can see our ILS is already programmed in there, and that was literally just, I hit departure arrival, went to arrival. We already had our arrival in there for our Rice 7. You may recall we did that earlier. And then you just scroll until you find the runway you're looking for. We were doing ILS 33 right. I clicked on that, clicked execute, and so now when you go to your approach reference page, it's already got the frequency in there for it. Alright, so we're going to do the 30-degree flaps. So we're going to go and click on that. That puts it down in the scratch pad, and then click right here, and bam, that's what we're going to be looking for. Alright, so that's as simple as that. Not difficult at all. Now I do want to zip back here real quick. Let's get that out of the way. Alright. And I want to go to our, let's see, which one's the nav radio here? It's not VHF, right? No, it's not VHF. I don't think you do nav radio. Yeah, see, none of this is for nav radio, right? So what I'm getting at here, guys, is normally you would tune the nav radio, right? But you don't have to on this aircraft. I'm quite certain of that, even though I didn't really read very far in the manual. Don't mind me. But anyway, it should already be in there, because as far as the aircraft's concerned, it's already determined that this is our ILS frequency. So I'm hoping I'm right about that and that it doesn't get messed up. But who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong and it'll get messed up. We're almost at our top of descent point. I want to make sure the aircraft is going to start the descent on its own, which it should. But we've got our VREF speeds entered now. Landing distance and auto brakes. Now this one is interesting. We got tons of landing space. We got a 12,000 foot runway, so we got plenty of room to land. But I do want to go over this really quick because it's an important part of what you're doing. Okay, and I was delaying just slightly to make sure. It is starting the descent on its own, which is exactly what I want. Flight attendant's bumping her gum, so we're going to go on that. So we need to set the auto brake selector to the needed brake setting. Then there's sort of a little guide in here. So for auto brakes 1, it's not practical for carbon brakes, and we have carbon brakes, so we're just not going to use auto brake setting 1. Settings 2 and 3 are adequate deceleration for most routine operations where the runway is dry and the braking action is reported as good, which is what we're going to assume. So we're going to probably use setting 2 because, again, we got tons of runway. And it is dry, at least it is right now. 4 is used when moderate deceleration rates are required, or if the runway is reported wet, slippery, or braking action is reported as poor. So that would be setting number 4. And then max auto is when maximum deceleration is required for whatever reason, and we're not going to need that. So we're going to set it to 2. Well, if I can actually click on it there, auto brake set to 2. We're going to go on that. And then set the radio or barometric minimums as needed for the approach. I'm going to go with radio because it's simpler. For me, it makes more sense. Now, some people say, no, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. There's 200 right there. So radio is basically signal being sent to the ground and back up. It tells you how high you are above the ground, whereas baro is how high are you above sea level, right? So now the sound's going to go out for just a second here because I'm going to switch my approach chart over here just for a second. So if I wanted to do the baro setting, it would be 289 feet. or I could do the radio setting at 200 feet. And 200 feet is like the norm, right? That's what you normally do. Now again, I'm not an airline pilot, so there may be some huge differences in there that I'm not aware of, but typically it's 200 feet is your decision altitude or decision height, right? 200 feet above the runway. So I'm setting it as radio because I know I can just go right to 200 feet. I don't have to look at the chart. But if I look at the chart tells me that my barrow is 289 feet. So I could go barrow and put it at 289 feet, which I actually switched it to barrow accidentally. So there we are on radio, and I'll pop this up just so you can see it real quick. So it tells you right there, it says radio 200 feet, okay? So if I move that over, if I switch this over to barrow, now it says barrow 200 feet. Well, for barrow, I need to be at 289. So we're going to leave it on radio, and we're going to leave it at 200 feet, and we're good to go. Do the approach briefing. We're actually going to do that here in just a second, and then perform the descent checklist. So let's take care of the descent checklist, and then we'll worry about, excuse me, the approach briefing. So checklist, I've already got it set to descent. We've checked recall. There are no notes. Auto brake is set. Landing data has been set. And then, even though we haven't actually done it yet, we're about to complete the approach briefing. So I'll click on that. Go back to normal checklist. It's taking me to pre-flight because I missed a checklist somewhere in there. But take it to the approach checklist, and we're good to go. And that means we can go ahead and take care of our approach briefing. So let's do that now. Alright, based on the wind, we're going to be taking the ILS for runway 33 right. Might as well fly the ILS on this anyway, just to see how everything sets up properly and all of that. So our HOTAS is going to be on 124.05. Houston approach, we are coming from the west, so 124.35 for us. Houston Tower, let's see, let me zoom that in so you can see it. For runways 15 left, 33 right, 15 right, 33 left is 127.3. Of course, that's us there. If you're in any of these other runways, it's different frequency. But 127.3 for us, 121.7 for us on the ground. Our localizer frequency is going to be 111.9er. ICDG is the identifier. Final approach course 329 degrees. And glide slope starts at H.O.T.A.S at 1,600 feet, that's above sea level, 1,511 feet above the ground. The ILS decision altitude or decision height is 289 feet above sea level or 200 feet above the ground. So this would be barrow, this would be radio, depending on which one we're going to use. Airport elevation is at 96 feet, touchdown zone at 89 feet. So you guys tracking on how, it's a pretty good flow of information actually as far as all of that goes. And then that rolls into our missed approach, which we'll actually talk about here in just a second. Let me slide this up just a little bit. So we're coming in out here at Dudme, and we'll look at the profile view here shortly, take a look at our altitudes. But we're coming in out here at Dudme, coming around to 329 degrees down to H.O.T.A.S where we should intercept the glide slope, and then on in from there, unless of course we have to execute that missed approach. If we execute a missed approach, it's going to be a climb to 2,000 feet outbound on the IAH VOR, which is this guy right here, on the 330 degree radial to Gomer, okay, Gomer intersection, which is 26.8 nautical miles. What is TNV? Oh, it's 26.8 nautical miles from the TNV VOR, which you can see in the little not to scale box here. So TNV VOR, it would be on the 076 degree radial from the TNV VOR at 26.8 nautical miles. I would think they would give us the distance from IAH instead. That would make a little more sense, right? Either way, PAPI lights are going to be on the right-hand side on runway 33 left. I don't know why it tells us that. Our PAPI lights, are they on our right-hand side or the right-hand side of runway 33 left? Because if that was the case, it would be on our left-hand side, right? Anyway, let's take a look at our profile view here real quick. Slide that up. There we go. Out at Dudme, 2,000 feet, down to 1,600, and then H.O.T.A.S where we intercept the glide slope, and then on in from there, unless of course we have that missed approach. And you've got your, what does MALSR stand for? I know it has to do with the lighting. I can't remember what it stands for though. Something to do with the intensity or the type of lighting. This is going to be our lighting configuration as we approach the runway. That's just to help identify and make sure you're actually approaching the proper runway in low visibility conditions. And then your missed approach procedures, 2,000 up straight ahead to 2,000 feet on the 330 degree radial from the IAH VOR out to Gomer. We're not sidestep landing runway 33 left, so we don't need to worry about that. This is localizer information if the glide slope is out, and then your ILS information down to your decision altitude of 289 feet. Runway visual range needs to be 20, I think that's 2,400 meters, 2,400 feet, or a half, yeah, 2,400 feet or 1/2 mile. And I actually don't know what rail and ALS out means, so maybe somebody could brush me up on that. But that's pretty much it as far as your, that zooms out kind of weird. That's just, don't mind me, people, don't mind me at all. That's it as far as your approach briefing is concerned. I think we're good to go on everything. So let's go fly. Alright, we're getting pretty close to our approach here, and the manual says that you're actually supposed to, or that don't mind me, I'm just going to sit here and stare at the screen because clearly talking is out of the question. The approach procedure is normally started at transition level. Well, obviously we're below transition level already, so we're a little behind that schedule, and that's all right though. So it gives you other options. It can also be before the initial approach fix, or the start of radar vectors to the final approach course, or the start of the visual approach. You can do it any of those. So we're just like randomly picking a spot in the middle, and that's when we're going to do it, which is right now. So as far as the approach procedure is concerned, you want to set the altimeters, which ours are set. 3007, which is the local altimeter setting. We want to make sure the seatbelt sign is on, and ours should be on auto, so we should be good on that, and it is on auto. And then below 18,000 feet, it says runway turnoff lights, strobe lights, logo lights all come on below 18,000 feet, but not the runway lights yet. Well, it does say landing lights too. Strobe lights were already on anyway. We're going to leave taxi lights off, and we're not going to turn landing lights on until we get below 10,000 feet. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's what we're going to do. Set and cross-check the altimeters. That should already be done. His altimeter is set. You guys can't really see it, but I can. I can see that it says 3007. So we're good on that one as well. And then the approach checklist needs to be performed, which if we hop down here, I've already got it pulled up, and it's just setting the altimeters, which we've done. So we'll check that one off. Go back to our normal checklist here and go to our landing checklist, which is going to be arming the speed brake, landing gear down, and flaps as required. And of course, it's going to be flaps 30 for us. Hitting a little bit of turbulence here, you can see as we're coming in. We've got plenty of room to work with still, so that's our 20-mile marker right there. So we've definitely got some room to slow down. We're going to let the aircraft kind of do its thing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do kind of what I do with FS2 Crew. I'm not really going to say anything. I'm just going to leave the recording going and just edit out all the blank parts, and that way I don't have to keep starting and stopping the recording. So I hope that works out for you guys, and we'll be talking here shortly. Alright, as you can see, we're just starting our turn at our custom waypoint here. Remember, we've got 8 miles between this waypoint and our approach fix at Dudney. So we're good to go on everything. We don't have gear down yet. That's going to be the next step. Matter of fact, we can, I think once we hit Dudney, actually here's what I want to do. I want to get my brain in order. So as we're making this turn, I want to go ahead and hit the localizer switch, which is this guy way over here. Okay. And that's going to let it lock onto the localizer. As soon as it locks onto the localizer, I should be able to hit the approach switch, which is the button right below it, and it'll be prepared to lock onto the glide slope as well. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and drop the landing gear, and we can take care of our landing checklist, which is going to be pretty straightforward. Landing checklist is going to be speed brakes being armed, which they are already, landing gear down, and then the flaps set to where they need to be. And we're going to work towards that flap setting here shortly. Remember, we've got plenty of room between here and Dudney, and we're already slowed to 180 knots, so it's not like we're moving quickly. We get a little bit of chop in the background there, which is a little obnoxious. I don't know why the frame rates are dropping so low. I think I'm gonna, I don't know, I need to do something to get this thing to run a little smoother, because I should be getting about 30 frames a second right now, and I'm just not. So I think I need to decrease the scenery detail or the complexity or something like that, so that's a little bit better. So I apologize for that little bit of choppiness, but such is the world of FSX, right? You're constantly tweaking it, trying to make it run a little bit better. Let's go ahead and bring this range down one notch. Gives us a little bit better picture. I love that we have this large map view on here. I think that's fantastic. I really, when you first look at these screens, they're almost like they almost look gaudy, cartoonish, if you will. Not because of quality wings, but because of the way the 787 was actually designed. That's how it looks in the real aircraft. It's just so much different than the glass you're used to seeing these larger displays and so on. So it's pretty interesting. But we're getting close to Dudney here. Let's go ahead and bring the speed down to 160 knots. And you can see I have manual control of the speed now. Well, sort of manual control. It's still on auto throttle, but I have but I'm controlling what the auto throttle's set at, and I'm still on VNAV path. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's on VNAV path. Let's go ahead and bring in flaps 15 at this point, and let's go ahead and lower that landing gear. So once the landing gear is down, you'll see this checklist item should turn green on its own. Let's see if it does that.
Flight attendants, please be seated for arrival.
Yep, there it is. Turn green on its own. And then the flaps, when we reach flaps 30, the flaps checklist item should turn green on its own as well. And before we get to flaps 30, we need to get down around 100. Well, we could probably go to flaps 30 right now, but our final landing speed is 128 knots. So we're going to bring this down just a little bit more. Bring this down to 130 is fine for now. So 128 is our landing speed, so 128 plus 5 is 133. So let's bring it to 133. Let's go ahead and roll in those flaps before we get too slow here. That's flaps 20, 25, and then flaps 30, in case you weren't aware, is going to be full flaps. So full flaps. And you can see that our checklist item is now green for the landing checklist. So if we jump down here, we got just a second, we can do it. In fact, hold on, let me jump back up here. We have locked onto the localizer, that's why it's in green. In case you can't, so right in the middle there, we've got a little time. Localizer's in green, that means it's locked on. Now when I hit the approach switch here, okay, see how glide slope is white, GS is white under VNAV path. It'll turn green once it intercepts the glide slope. Look at this guy! Oh, I gotta turn traffic off. That's just ridiculous. You know what? That's probably part of the problem. You know what? I'm going to pause this. I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to turn traffic off, and I'll be right back. I don't know if that's going to help the frame rates any, but we turned the traffic off, so hopefully that'll not only help our frame rates, but everything else as well. We shouldn't have any aircraft cutting us off anyway. There's that anyway, right? Okay, let's go. Track higher coming on here. Little jump. There it is. Yeah, the frame rates are still junk. There's just nothing I can do about that at this point. I don't know why. I actually I took all the traffic off. I didn't really change anything else though. I'm just gonna have to play around with it, so I do apologize. But hopefully at least we don't get a slideshow like we did with the 777, because that was just absolutely utterly insane, and that just really ticked me off. So let's hope we don't get that. We should be coming up. I don't know if you can see it. I'll pop it up here so you can. So you can see that little diamond's moving down, and right about the time it's about to hit center, you should see the aircraft start to descend. You see glide slope's already locked in, so the aircraft is already locked onto the glide slope now. And so we're just waiting for it to start its descent, and there it is. It's starting its descent there. And that's got us on glide path. So I'm just going to let it do that for a minute. I'm not going to auto land the aircraft. I rarely do that. I'm going to go ahead and fly it in, but I'm just going to let it establish itself a little bit on the glide path here. And then we'll go ahead and we'll turn that autopilot off and we'll hand fly it in. This is a very easy aircraft to fly. It's not difficult to fly at all. But we got just a little bit of crosswind here. I'll pop that up so you can see that, since we still got autopilot on. You can see it's coming off the right just a little bit. Pretty good wind. It's a little gusty as well, so we're gonna have to watch that once we take control of the aircraft. But let's go ahead and do that now. So autopilot coming off. There we go. Autopilot is now off. We have control of the aircraft, and see, it's set on land 3, but it can't do land 3 while we have control of the aircraft now, can it? So let's go ahead and turn the auto throttles off as well. Okay, auto throttles are off. Let me grab a hold of my throttles here. Whoop. Ran those up pretty far, didn't I? Little delay in those actually, so we don't want our speed to get up there. We're looking for 128 as our landing speed, so just keep an eye on that. Remember, the wind's a little gusty, so that makes it a little bit more difficult, and these engines seem to be just a little bit slow to respond, so that's something to keep in mind as well. You know, if you want to add some throttle, you have to stay ahead of this aircraft. You really do. So you just want to keep a close eye on your speed, your rate of descent. Those PAPI lights, there's no PAPI lights on our runway. They were just talking about the ones over there for runway 33 left, I suppose. So let's get that up and out of the way. So bring that speed back just a little bit. And these throttles, they're touchy. It doesn't take much to get the aircraft to increase or decrease its speed. So
approaching 3 right.
And we're doing pretty good on our glide slope here. I just brought in just a tiny bit of trim, and now we're drifting a little bit. And that's just me. That's just poor piloting. So drifting a little bit. We'll get it back over here. Speed's looking pretty good.
500.
Actually, just about spot on the speed. I'm liking it. All right, let's listen for our call outs here, guys.
Approaching minimums. Minimums. 200. $100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
There she is. Not too bad. Auto brakes kicked in. Let's throw in a little bit of reverse thrust. Alright, as we roll out here, let's go ahead and get the flaps coming up. There's flaps all the way up. Remember, I had to use a button for that. Let's go ahead and make sure the spoilers are up now. Let's bring that taxi light on. Landing lights can come off as we're about to exit the runway here. High speed exit, but not that high speed. Oh, that was a little ugly there. Alright. Track IR coming off. Little jump here. There it is. Let's bring her to a nice... I just want to slow it way down right now. We're still doing 20 knots here. I want to slow it way down. Almost to a stop, just so we can take a look. We can actually do our checklist right on here. Let's do that. Let's go checklist. There it is. That's before taxi. That's not what we want, though. We already did our landing. So our next checklist will be our shutdown checklist, actually. So we're going to go on that. So track IR back on. Bring her over here. Watch that speed. We're doing 10 knots, so we're good. We're not going too fast. Flaps are up at this point. I'm not familiar with this airport at all. I mean, those should be gates everywhere. Of course, it's hard to tell because I have all of the AI traffic turned off. At least it stayed smooth for the ride in. You know, we didn't get a lot of choppiness. We didn't get, you know, freeze frames and stuff like that. I think we pulled off on the wrong spot here. I think this is like cargo. Because you see that grassy area over there? Right over here? That's like between where we're at. So, you know what? We're just going to, like, randomly park out here. That's all good. I don't mind. Now see, I've got the throttles all the way to idle right now, but this aircraft and these engines are so efficient that it's actually increasing speed with the throttles at 0. So So yeah, you kind of got to be on the brakes a little bit, which is not what you would normally do, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, track IR coming back off. Little jump. There it is. Let's try and roll her in here. See how close I can get it here to being parked where it's supposed to be. I'm never really quite right, but we'll get as close as we can. Should be right about there. There we go. Bring her to a stop. Let's go and put that parking brake on here. There it is. Parking brake is on. Get my feet off those pedals so I don't mess it up. And let me find my shutdown stuff here. So the after landing, there is no checklist for it, but we did take care of the after landing stuff. We should have turned off the taxi light as we pulled in here, and I did not turn off the runway turnoff lights, but we did turn off the landing lights. We probably could have put the APU on as well. So the after landing flow, it did actually have a list in here and I missed it, so my apologies. But speed brake down, flaps up, transponder is supposed to go to transponder. So we technically should have done all of this out there, but transponder goes to that one there. APU start, which we just did. We should have done it before. Anti-ice as required. We don't need it. Lights off, and then weather radar off as well. And I don't think we ever actually turned the weather radar on because I'm so used to not using weather radar since it never seems to work properly for me in these aircraft. But anyway, so that's your after landing checklist. We've already taken care of all of that stuff now. The APU should be spun up here in just a minute, and if there's any doubt, we could turn this to systems right there, and you can see the APU spinning up there, so we're good. So that's going to take us to our shutdown flow now. Alright, so remember now, this wants us to be using the APU, and we're not worried about this checklist here quite yet. We're just worried about the flow itself. So the parking brake needs to be set, which we've already done. Fuel cutoff switches need to go to the off position. Now the APU is up and running full now, so we can go ahead and do that. So 1 and 2 off. It's going to shut down the engines, automatically transfer power over to the APU. Seatbelt sign can come off at this point. Of course, we're not actually offloading passengers. Remember, we flew into Houston here, so we're bringing some aid workers and relief supplies into the folks here in Houston. So we might not necessarily go to a gate anyway. Hydraulic pumps all need to go off. Oh, let's see. Hydraulic pumps. That's all of these guys here, right? So you get your primary, you got your demand pumps, and then your C1 and C2 electric pumps. And all it says on here is hydraulic pumps off. So we're just going to turn all of these off. There we go. Hydraulic pumps are off. IRS selectors go to the off position, left and right. Flight deck door power can go to the off position. That one's actually down here if you remember. Flight deck door, well, that's access to auto. Where was the power at? I totally forgot now, huh? Like, it hasn't even been that long since I did it, but now I don't remember where it's at. Flight deck door power, there it is, right there. Okay, flight deck door power goes off. What else? Engine anti-ice is on auto. Beacon can go off at this point. That one's down here. Wing lights can go off as well. Nav lights will stay on. Flight directors can go off. 1 and 2. Good to go there. Transponder can go to standby now. Come back down here. Transponder over to standby. There she goes. And then external power as required. So what we could do at this point is we could say, okay, let's pull up our little control panel here, put the external power on, and then if you hop up top here, we can say external power is available. Put both of those on, turn the APU off, and then that takes us into our parking procedure. So the parking procedure is parking brake set, which we've already done. Fuel control switches all need to go to cutoff. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are all in the cutoff position now. Seatbelt sign is already off. Let's see, hydraulic system, we've already taken care of that. Everything needs to be off. Flight deck door power switch is already off. Fuel pumps are already off. And engine anti-ice is on auto. Beacon is off. We don't have the HUD down. EFB main menu, close flight. So here's when you want to hop over here, click on menu, and well, we had initialized flight, but I guess it's already, I guess it closed itself out, is what it looks like. Transponders already on standby. IRS selectors are off. And then perform the shutdown checklist, which we've got right here. That's our shutdown checklist. So the only thing it's saying is the parking brake. Parking brake is on. Maybe it needs to be off now. Set your parking brake before connecting external power. Okay, parking brake on. For some reason it's just not showing up on there. So there's the parking brake. And that takes us to our final checklist, which is the securing checklist. IRSs are already off. Emergency lights need to go off. Jump up top here, emergency lights. Right click to open it. Come on. Ooh, that is a small click spot there. Come on. You have to right click it to turn them off. There we go. Hop back down here, and then packs need to go off. I should have known that anyway. So packs were on auto. Packs are now off. And if we hop down here, that completes our secure checklist, with one exception. The only thing we haven't done yet is we haven't actually taken the power all the way off the aircraft. So if we come up here, it's supposed to be on external power, but apparently it's not now. So let's go ahead and turn the battery off before we drain it. That's going to shut everything down. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That completes the full flight tutorial for the Quality Wings 787, an aircraft that many of us have been waiting for a long time. And can I just say, Quality Wings, you did a quality job on this airplane. I love it. I am disappointed, to be perfectly honest with you, that the P3D version 4 version of this aircraft is not available yet, and slightly even more disappointed at the fact that I'm going to have to pay more money for that. I've been trying to avoid that, but I did not want to wait any longer to get this airplane. To be to be honest, I was really excited about this, and so I went ahead and I bit the bullet on it. So I hope that Quality Wings does us a huge favor, does us a huge solid, and really gives us a huge discount for FSX owners that purchase the P3D V4 version of this aircraft, because I'm definitely going to get it for version 4, because I'm going to be doing a lot of flights in this aircraft. I'm looking forward to a lot of flights in this aircraft. I love the way they did it. I almost parked on the right spot there. I love the way you guys did it. I really am very impressed, and I enjoy flying this thing. It's a beautiful airplane, very well done, and just round of applause for the guys at Quality Wings. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this one, folks. Once again, please keep in mind that a full flight tutorial is about being able to start up and fly the aircraft from point A to point B using the procedures. Typically, I go with the procedures as outlined in the manual provided by whoever designed the aircraft. So in this case, Quality Wings provided a manual. We followed their procedures. So if there's things that you think are incorrect or something like that, please talk to Quality Wings about it. Don't yell at me, because I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not going to deal with that. On occasion, we'll go with procedures that are more oriented towards a specific airline, but typically we're going to go straight from the manual, and that's what we did on this one. So that is essentially the tutorial flight that comes with Quality Wings, except that we chose different airports because, hey, I'm Captain Mac and I like to do things a little bit different, right? But it was a great flight, guys. I really enjoyed it. I hope that this flight has helped you in understanding how to operate the aircraft, at least the basics of how to operate this aircraft, and that you get many, many, many hours of fun and enjoyment out of flying this airplane. It's a lot of fun, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you haven't already done so, please drop down there and hit that subscribe button. We're up to almost 5,000 subscribers. I am grateful for every one of you. You've been extremely supportive over the last couple of years, and especially the last few months when I've been on a bit of a hiatus. If you're not aware, Mac Air, look at macairvirtual.com. I think that's the right address. Yeah, I should know it. I really should know it. It's a virtual airline that myself and my good friend Eric Cowlflap's grind staff started, and it's a really neat and unique airline. There's 3 separate divisions. You've got an open division, fly whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. You've got a historical division, which focuses on historical aircraft, predominantly piston pounders like the Constellation, the DC-3, and so on. And then we've got a professional division, which is an extremely difficult division to climb your way up through the ranks, and all of those under a single profile, which you can't find in any other virtual airline. So you're going to start seeing a lot of flights from me coming out of Mac Air, and I'm really looking forward to that. But please hop on over to the website and go ahead and sign up and register as a pilot over there and see what you think about it. It's definitely a unique experience, and Eric does an amazing job running that. We've got a great staff over there. They do a great job of running things. Everybody's very interactive and friendly, and I absolutely love how it's turned out. So thank you to Eric and to all of the staff members at Mac Air for everything that you guys do over there. Really appreciate it. And again, you can always like us on Facebook, guys. I don't post on there very much, but when we reach that point where a lot of people are looking at Facebook, then I'll post on there more. You can follow us on Twitter And then you can follow us over on Twitch at CaptainMac3588. And that's going to wrap it up, folks. So until next time, as always, keep the blue side up unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.